What's up, guys? I'm Chad Barnes, and welcome to the channel. Here, it's all about real car talk, from simple fixes to smart driving tips and keeping your ride in top shape. If that sounds good to you, go ahead and give the video a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button, and make sure you watch all the way through. There's a lot of good stuff coming. Let's get to it.
As in the times of scientific atheism, Christianity was thoroughly studied, so we will start our review of alternative tuning of Mercedes with the court Adelia, the very three letters AMG. The history of this company deserves a separate story, and within the framework of our today's review, dedicated just to alternative. We will recall only the most important milestones and achievements, thanks to which a small company from Grossespark eventually managed to become an official Adelia of Mercedes and turn into a standard solution, a sport package, for almost any serial model. So, in 1967, engineers Hans Werner Aufrecht and Erhard Melcher, who had previously worked at Mercedes, founded a company to refine the German brand's cars. To be more precise, they spent the next 4 years charging Mercedes 300 SE sedans, doing it in a small workshop in Berchtesgaden. The AMG abbreviation consists of the initials, or rather the first letters of the surnames of Aufrecht and Melcher. The third letter, G, symbolizes Aufrecht's birthplace, the town of Grossespark. But a further longer name which fully says this, Aufrecht Melcher Grossespark, Ingenieurbüro, Construction und Versuch seit Entwicklung von Renn und Sportmotoren. In fact, the history of the brand began when Hans Werner Aufrecht bought a wrecked 303 times cheaper than it cost new. Remains a couple of enthusiasts turned into a sports car, able to compete on equal terms with race cars at 24-hour races. Improvement of engine, brakes and suspensions cost Germans $100,000, but during test runs in Hockenheim pilot Helmut Kalleness crashed the car. Apparently, it was the karma of a particular instance. However, Aufrecht and Melcher managed to get their Mercedes-Benz 300 SEL 6.8 AMG ready for its debut race at Spa-Francorchamps by working day and night. The large sedan numbered 35 was quite heavy, 1,635 kilograms, but to compete with lighter and more maneuverable rivals it was helped by a V8 engine, which after modifications of engineers produced an impressive 428 horsepower. The car was nicknamed Red Pig Rote Sau because of the color of the body and not insignificant dimensions. As a result, despite a number of problems, the red Mercedes was able to arrive at the finish line in Spa, taking second place in the absolute and first in its class. So the roar of the Red Pig's engine was heard around the world, which meant a steady stream of orders for engine, suspension and brake modifications from Mercedes owners. In 1976, the company moved to a Falterbach and its staff numbered 4 people. We will certainly return to the pages of the glorious history of this company, and now we will finish the excursion into the past of AMG with the Model 300e 5.6 AMG, which received the nickname Hammer. Hammer from AMG with a V8 could punish even Ferrari. After all, this sedan was the first 124th with a V8 engine under the hood. Thanks to the efforts of engineers of the tuning studio, the V8 M117 from the 560 SEC model developed an impressive 360 horsepower, which allowed the car to accelerate to 100 km per hour in just 5.4 seconds and officially take the mark of 300 km per hour. In 1990, a landmark event in the history of the company took place. From a third-party manufacturer, the company practically turned into a factory structure, because after the conclusion of a partnership agreement with Daimler-Benz AG, it was possible to order a package of improvements from AMG right in a Mercedes dealership. Moreover, in 1993 the first car that Mercedes and AMG had already made together appeared. It was a new Tseschka Mercedes-Benz C36 AMG, and a little later the E-Class models E50 and E60 AMG appeared in the model range. Like C-Class, the 210th was created with the expectation that it will have AMG version, and on January 1, 1999 Hans Werner Aufrecht transferred his shareholding to Daimler AG, after which AMG became a wholly owned subsidiary of Mercedes. Thus, the once small garage enterprise was able to become as integral sports direction of the brand as S-Line at Audi and M-Performance at BMW. Brabus just at the time when Aufrecht and Melcher had already moved to a Falterbach, two entrepreneur companions Bodo Buschmann and His partner Klaus Brackmann started their business in the western German town of Bottrop. As it is easy to guess, the name of the company registered in 1977 Brabus was formed from the first three letters of the founders' surnames, Brabus. Initially, the Germans were engaged in the sale of Mercedes, but soon Buschmann offered his partner not only to sell cars of the German brand, but also to improve them. On the photo, Bodo Buschmann was the idea inspirer of the project, and he attracted Brackmann only because the legislation of the Federal Republic of Germany did not allow opening such companies alone. And soon Buschmann bought out from his companion his part of assets for a symbolic 100 Deutschmarks, becoming the sole owner of the brand. The Brabus recipe for improvements was simple and uncomplicated: visual refinements of the body and interior, lowered and stiffer suspension, larger diameter wheels with a characteristic disc pattern. Aesthetics and luxury, that's a nutshell to describe the original direction in which the company operated. That's why the refined shake trucks with TV and video player have found their grateful admirers in the UAE and other countries of the Middle East. And instead of injection of vivacity in the standard motor, in Bottrop preferred a swap, i.e. installation of a completely different engine. So, in 1984 Brabus loudly announced itself to the whole world with a charged 190 under the hood of which appeared 276 horsepower 5-liter V8 engine. And next year Brabus even managed to get into the Guinness Book of Records because the aerodynamic Dodger developed by this company for the 124th provided this model with a fantastic coefficient of CX, only 0.26. A year later Bodo Buschmann initiated the creation of a non-profit organization VDAT, Association of German Tuning Companies, which was supposed to unite European tuning studios and protect them from the expansion of Asian companies. After all, it is no secret that the quality of available Asian accessories, which flooded into Europe more than 30 years ago, could not be compared with similar products from European companies. That is why Buschmann proposed to control the quality of such products at the level of an official organization, of which Bodo himself became the honorary chairman. However, he did not forget about his main activity, rolling out in 1988 another version of the 190 under the Index 190E 3.6S. Compact sedan with a 272 horsepower engine accelerated to 100 in only 6.8 seconds, and its top speed even exceeded the standard. At that time 250 km/h, because the Aero speedometer small Brabus went beyond the 260 mark. In the 90s, Brabus was able to consolidate its status as one of the best third-party enterprises for the improvement of Mercedes cars. The image of the Atelier from Bottrop was significantly influenced by the release of the V12 engine, which in the Brabus version turned from a 6-liter engine into almost 7-liter. The 6.9-liter engine developed 530 horsepower, almost 140 horses, surpassing the power index of the standard 600th. Considered the most powerful in Germany, the Brabus engine was offered for both the 140th and the W129 Roadster. In 1996, Brabus again swung for the record, this time claiming the title of the world's fastest Mercedes. By cramming a colossal 7.3-liter V12 engine into the body of the then-new eyeballed E-Class W210, Buschmann was able to create the world's fastest production sedan. This title was officially confirmed and recorded by the Guinness Book because the EV12 7.3S with a 582 horsepower engine accelerated up to 330 km/h. And a year later, Bottrop created the fastest station wagon in the world, also based on the 210th. But in the next iteration of the V-shaped 12-cylinder engine, Buschmann squeezed out already 791 horsepower. As a result, the 5-door Spectacle Man could accelerate up to 320 km/h. So fast among competitors of such form factor in the world really did not go anyone. In 1998, the 7.3-liter engine was in the new at that time crossover ML, thanks to which the model in the version of Brabus accelerated to 261 km/h, becoming the fastest SUV in history, again, got on the pages of the Guinness Book of Records. In the new century, Brabus has a division for yachts, and the company has also signed a long-term contract with Daimler for the tuning of smart cars. Warranty periods for customers on the eve of the 25th anniversary of the brand increased to 3 years or 100,000 kilometers of mileage. In 2004, Brabus opened a subsidiary, StarTech, initially aimed at tuning American Jeep and Chrysler cars. At the same time, Bushman did not forget about Mercedes, introducing a tuning variant for the Maybach, as well as a 7.3-litre 12-cylinder G-Class. A year later, the company presented two new sedans capable of reaching 350 km per hour. Brabus EV12 was able to take this mark, and in 2006, the CLS Rocket was able to reach 365 km per hour. In 2006, the Auto, Motor and Sport edition named Brabus the best tuning studio, and the team from Bortrop was able to win this title 8 times in a row. Lorinser. Unlike AMG and Brabus, the company Lorinser can rightfully be considered the oldest tuning atelier in Europe, because even before the Second World War, or rather, on March 1, 1930, car mechanic Owen Lorinser opened a workshop for repair and maintenance of cars. However, for 4 decades the company in Weiblingen only repaired vehicles, but also sold trucks and cars. In 1974 Owen Lorinser retired from the business and handed over the management of the company to his son Manfred. Already in 1976, Lorinser Jr. opened a new branch in Winnenden, where in addition to the sale and service of cars, also began to deal with their refinement. For this purpose a separate division Sport Service Lorinser was created, the first swallow of which was a modified Mercedes W123. Thus, the Lorinser family plunged into the topic of exterior tuning of Mercedes cars at the same time as AMG and Brabus, chronologically, becoming the third major player in this league. In 1981, Sport Service Lorinser was entered into the commercial register and became a legal entity in its own right. In 2006, the still successful company was taken over by Markus Lorinser, the grandson of the brand's founder. Despite the fact that Lorinser is present practically on all continents, actively showing itself not only in the traditional markets of Europe and the USA, but also in the Middle East, the company concentrated its efforts on changes in appearance. However, specialists of this brand are also engaged in refinement of engines, just without a significant increase in working volume. As a charge of vigor used compressors and the original exhaust system. With the growing popularity of diesel engines, the company was one of the first to offer a program to increase the power of diesel engines. In addition to turnkey solutions, Lorinser also offers suspension modification kits as well as wheel rims, which can often be found on an otherwise standard car. And as Markus Lorinser rather ambitiously states these days, the company perfects the perfect. Carlson. The official starting point of the Carlson company is considered to be 1989, but the history of this brand began a little earlier and with cars. BMW. More precisely, with another tuning studio, the German company Hartger, which was founded by brothers Herbert and Rolf Hartger. In turn, they started with trivial repair of BMW cars, but with time they started to improve them. Guided by the famous formula on Sunday win, on Monday sell, in 1978, the Hartger brothers exhibited prepared by the forces of their company 3-car E21 at the rally. It would seem, what does Carlson have to do with it? Everything is very simple. Swedish driver Ingvar Carlsson was invited as a pilot. Before that, the Swede had performed on Mercedes cars, and having shown an excellent result on the Hartger brothers' car, he soon returned to the wheel of the car with a 3-beam star on the hood. However, the paths of Carlsson and Hartger did not diverge, because in addition to the two Hartger brothers there was a third, Andreas, who prepared for the Swede Rally 123rd. In the mid-80s, Andreas, as they call it, matured to the point where he was able to customize Mercedes on a professional level. However, the name, or more precisely, the surname, Hartger has already been highlighted in the tuning of BMW cars, and the third brother did not want to use it for modifications of the main competitor of the Bavarians. Therefore, the choice fell on the surname of the man who glorified the products of Hartger family in motorsport. So tuning Mercedes from Hartger received the name Carlsson, and at first Andreas actively uses ready-made components Hartger, in particular, discs. In addition to Mercedes cars, the new company turns its attention to other brands, having released its own version of refinements for Toyota Celica and even Saab. However, the main efforts are concentrated, of course, around the brand Mercedes, because in the 90s tuning their cars seriously engaged in the above-mentioned brands. And the struggle for the wallet of a potential buyer was not serious for a simple reason: poor people did not buy Mercedes, and even more so, tuning ones. Andreas went the proven way and decided to declare a new Mercedes tuning studio with the help of Auto Racing. The very next year after the opening of Carlson Company, on the basis of Mercedes W201, was built a racing car, Carlson C35, for participation in the competitions of Touring Group A. In 1991, the first versions of tuning civilian Mercedes were released: Carlson C35W124 and Carlson C36W140, and a year later, the 190th Carlson C35W201. Engine power after modifications amounted to 275 horses, thanks to which the 124th in tuning from Hartger was able to swing the coveted mark of 250 km/h. In 1993, the cars of this studio finally received the original pattern of wheel rims, and the design of wheels, called Design 1/6, was so perfect that soon it appeared on serial Mercedes in a new reading. The new compact model under the index W202 was immediately subjected to tuning, and in the Carlson version its engine developed 280 horsepower. But engineers did not stop there, having engaged in finalization of the flagship motor V12, from which they, by increasing the working volume to 6.9 litres, managed to remove 496 horses. With such a unit created on the basis of SL Roadster, Carlson C70 accelerated up to 290 km/h. Carlson Autotechnic's motto is "Go your own way." At the same time, in the model range of the company appeared Evil C36 RS, which had a 336 horsepower motor under the hood. However, Carlson did not rest on their laurels, trying to surpass their competitors in the tuning shop. So, in 1997, the world saw the Roadster CM74 based on the same 129th. The working volume of the engine was brought up to an all-outrageous 7.4 litres, getting an output of 560 horsepower. To equipped with such a powerful engine, the car could accelerate to 100 in only 4.9 seconds. It was equipped not with a usual automatic, but with a 6-speed manual transmission. Despite the comfortable image of Mercedes brand, as an option for the executive S-Class W220, Carlson's offered not only deep buckets for all 4 occupants, but also a safety cage. At the beginning of 2000's mechanical superchargers, with the help of which Carlson engineers decided to increase the power, became universally recognized. It should be reminded that for some time Mercedes itself followed the same way, offering compressor versions of its cars since the mid-90s. In 2006, Carlson received an award for design from the Association of German Tuners, because this company competed equally with the other 3, AMG, Brabus and Lorinser, in some ways even surpassing them in the variety of discs and dodges. In 2009, a sad event took place. Ingvar Carlson suddenly passed away at the age of 62. At this time, Carlson produced the Super GT C25 Coupe based on the SL 600 Roadster, whose 700 horsepower engine allowed the car to accelerate up to 320 km/h. The highlight of the company became 4 options for modifications of new Mercedes cars. The first option is a banal installation of wheels, the second, the so-called dealer-level Dodger exhaust system, the third option involves intervention in the engine and suspension, and in the most severe case, the car is directly taken to the company in the city of Merzig, where they will fully realize the wishes of the client, for whom money does not matter. Bauer, if all the previous heroes of our review, in addition to technical tuning, were engaged in exterior improvements without body surgery, the oldest German atelier Bauer began its activities back in 1910 with the manufacture of bodies for automobile manufacturers, which was a common practice at that time. Since the 30s, produced open versions of cars, however, not Mercedes, but BMW, and the production of this atelier was so high level that BMW itself included the first 3-car E21 with an open body in its catalogues. The highlight of Bauer convertibles was the presence of constructive vestiges of the roof, because when remodeling in the open version, the designers left the roof pillars and door frames, linking them with a transverse stiffener for rigidity. Because of this feature, this type of bodywork received its own name, Top Cabriolet. In 2002, Bauer Karosseriefahrzeug GmbH division, which is a part of IVM Automotive Company, unexpectedly presented its own version of Mercedes Cabriolet, but not on the basis of a car, but on the basis of the legendary G-Class SUV W463, and in a 5-door version. As stated by Bauer himself, the G Cabrio XL with a body length of more than 5 meters, 5,142 millimeters, had the largest folding roof in the world. Interestingly, the SUV was characterized not only by a soft top, but also by a body lengthened by 440 millimeters, thanks to which the legroom for rear passengers became 200 millimeters more. The roof folded with the same electro-hydraulic mechanism as the factory convertible Mercedes G Cabrio, but because the Bauer version was almost a meter longer than a conventional convertible, the roof drive required modifications. The company released an open 5-door Helic not for a particular client, but to demonstrate its capabilities, wanting to revitalize interest in Bauer convertibles from potential customers. Alas, the unusual project did not help the oldest bodybuilder to stay afloat, and the company soon announced that it would cease operations. Styling Garage and others. The scope of our review cannot accommodate several dozens of companies that have ever tuned Mercedes cars. However, we cannot help but recall them here at least briefly. For example, from 1979 to 1986, there was Styling Garage, or SGS, which became famous for transforming the 126 into the 1000 SEL. As it is easy to guess from the Unlimited Index, the main clients were sheikhs from Arab countries and African leaders. How about one of the firm's contracts, which consisted in remodeling 40 S-Class sedans into multicolored and very bright limousines for the wedding of Abu Dhabi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan? And if in the early 80s you had enough money for 2 500-seat coupes, for the price of one of them you could have the Seagull wing upward rising doors attached to the Seacac. The company also experimented with body types, producing on the basis of 126th a real convertible and even a station wagon. Such a variety of body types was not even dreamed of by the creators of 126th. And we are afraid even to imagine what Bruno Sacco thought about it. But the most unusual project of SGS for all its short life was the Arrow C1 Coupe. It differed from the usual Cicacia not only by lifting doors, but also by the design of the front end in the style of Mercedes-Benz C111 concept. The highlight of the car was a flattened nose with a long fairing and opening headlights. However, the Styling Garage designer's imagination knew no bounds, while others only lengthened the 126th. SGS decided to increase its overall width by 200 millimeters. For added effect, the car was fitted with 16-inch wheels, but this figure was not measured by the diameter of the rims, but by their width. Faster, taller, stronger, or wider. The royal version of S-Class, what is called a real headache for those who understand, or for those who are sheiks. The expansion of the S-Class required the redesign of many parts, including all the windows and openings, rear axles, grille and lights. Only 6 examples of the 600 SGS Royale were made, half of which were purchased by the Sultan of Brunei. Seagull wings could also be found on another tuned Mercedes coupe, but not the S-Class. German engineer Hartmut Borchardt equipped the 2-door 124th with lifting doors. At the end of the last century, there were indeed many companies, often not too well known, involved in the engine and or appearance of Mercedes. Oettinger, GH Car Design, CDS Tuning, Göckel, Hasbeck, Koenig, in short, they are legion. And it is not only about Germans. The Belgian company Carrot by Duchatelet in the 80s also tuned Mercedes cars. And we will finish our narration with the most alternative variant of Mercedes tuning, Japanese. And it is not only Adelia Wald, known all over the world for its Dodges. In 1987 the company Tommy Kaira presented a pair of sedans. M19 on the basis of 190 and M30E 300EW 124. Perhaps, for the European eye such a variant of exterior modifications will seem a little strange, but let's not forget that it was in Japan, and not for a long time, because since 1988, Tommy Kaira completely switched to the Japanese. But, as they say, the squad did not notice the loss of a fighter. In conclusion, while AMG undoubtedly stands out as the flagship tuner for Mercedes-Benz, the world of automotive customization offers a rich tapestry of alternatives that deserve recognition. From Brabus and Lorinser to Carlson and Rentek, each of these tuners brings a unique flair and performance enhancement to the iconic Mercedes lineup. As we celebrate these renowned names, it's clear that the passion for tuning extends far beyond AMG, showcasing the creativity and engineering prowess that continues to elevate the Mercedes-Benz experience. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the fascinating realm of Mercedes-Benz tuners.